2004 Porsche 911. It's a C4S. The engine has been rebuilt to a 3.8 liter versus the stock 3.6. I'm just going to start it up now. Disconnecting the negative post on the battery. So it's just a quarter turn of these two knobs and then it slides right out. Negative side is on this side. It's bolted right to the chassis here. 10mm wrench. I'm a little concerned about all the security codes and everything for the radios, but I'll get over it. So now that we've disconnected the battery, we're ready to remove the stock airbox. So we'll start by pulling the tab on the mass airflow sensor cable there. We'll loosen and disconnect this hose clamp, as well as undo this bolt here and the clamp for the oil filter. That should loosen all this up and allow us to pull this entire airbox. Pull this up. In theory, come right out. I can reach that. There we have it. Intake box snorkel that we'll reuse. It's two grommets that were previously in the guide holes. The grommets were there and there. This will be the third hole that we use as well. I've used the included Torx Allen key with the hole in the middle to remove these specialty bolts from the mass airflow sensor. So those come straight out, no big deal. Don't use those anymore, and the mass airflow will just pull out. I'll just leave it in there for now while I set everything else up. As you can see, I've taken the snorkel off of the stock. It's just got a few tabs here, and I just used that flathead screwdriver that they suggest and just gave it a little bit of a pry so that I don't break any tabs. I've also attached this bracket, still loose. I just found that when I'm trying to rough fit that in and mark my hole on the lock, not having it tightened up would really make it harder for me. I'll install my mass airflow sensor onto here. Now again, you want to make sure that these holes line up with the tubing holes, and the sensor itself has this intake hole here, which should point towards the filter on your tubing. So this will go on here, and I will bolt that together. These are the bolts that it says to use. These are the ones that actually use the 2.5mm Allen key. So though the hardware that it says, or the tools that it says you need, are a 2.5 and a 4, you actually need a 2.5 and a 3 millimeter. So I've tightened this down. You make sure that that O-ring gasket slides right into this bracket, and then you use the standard bolts that you're using everywhere else with washers to screw into the already threaded tubing. If you look into the tubing, you can see that sensor intake facing the filter side. As I said earlier, I've put this bracket on loosely. You just have a bolt and a washer. Same bolt that you've been using everywhere else. Air snorkel. So I'll also slide that in. With that slid in tightly, I want to line it up with this to here. Once this is bolted down, lining everything up, marking off my holes. Now the instructions actually say to use a 1/4 inch drill bit here and a 3/8 inch drill bit for the snorkel. I suspect the 3/8 on the snorkel is so that you can make some adjustments on there, and this 1/4 just gives you a little bit of play on the standard bolt that's given with the kit. I've opted to actually use a 15/64 drill bit, and that's mostly because that's what I found first. But basically a 1/4 inch drill bit both here as well as on the snorkel. That's going to give you less play here, but basically just make sure that you're fit in the spot that you want to be, and you won't have any issues anyway. Mark the center of this slot so that you have play in both directions in case there is any error. Marked these 2 holes on the snorkel. Pull everything out. Drill into here. Make sure you take your bolt. Make sure that it fits in that hole that you've drilled. You don't want to put all this stuff back in and find that you have to widen that hole a little bit. But a 1/4 inch should be fine. The 15/64 was tight, so the 1/4 inch is probably the way to go there. And then here you just drill your holes. Again, bolts go in from the top. This is where you use the larger washers with the rubber grommets between, or rubber washers between, protecting the snorkel plastic from the nut. So I'm just going to go ahead and install this bolt here. The instructions actually show installing this bracket in the car by itself and then putting this in and bolting onto here. I'm going to see how it works the other way, just because I've already got that bolt on there, but by the looks of it, they're probably right. Yes. Bracket on its own. So keep it loose so that you can get everything past it. Plug this back in. Drop my bolts in. So is the flexi rubber washer, then the metal washer. It'll go in underneath like this, with the nut holding it in place. This guy right onto here. Make sure you're over top of the throttle body when you tighten this first one. It's actually gripping onto the metal. Actually thinking a wrench might be a better idea than this flathead screwdriver. There we go. The second one on. So I'll just give it a quick little rough-in fit. 16 to 3 1/4 bracket. I've opened it right up. Wrap it right around. Install the mass airflow sensor. Go ahead and do this. So you just pull the boot, slides over top of the edge. Take a look at your wires and see what works best, but by the looks of it, it doesn't make too much difference. So I'm just turning it 180 degrees, reapplying the boot. Get it to slide in behind. Get the clamp that came with it, slide it over top, put it in place. Oil filler, slides right in. Now remember, this bracket underneath does rotate, so it'll give you some play. So the negative end of my battery has been reconnected. Just quickly double check the snugness of everything here. So I'm just going to tweak this nozzle. Not quite sure how that's going to work out just yet, but it just needs to come into this location here rather than sitting down at an angle the way it is. Alright, so had some issues with lining up the nozzle. I found that with the fastening bolts only on top, the nozzle was able to flex down, so I just needed to put some support to get it to stick up. What I did was I just drilled a little hole. I'm not sure if you can see it there. Let me try and zoom in. Oh, there we go. So there's a little hole drilled in the nozzle, and that screw goes into the corner of the heat shield, and it just holds it so the nozzle goes vertically here. Went back, just removed this to get that in there, and then the 3 bolts on the bottom, there, and there, those all needed to be tightened up. So I hadn't done that earlier. I just went back and tightened that up after the fact. Everything seems to work well for me now. The nozzle fits in well. I don't seem to have any leaking seals. This is an 8mm socket, so if you use an 8mm socket wrench on these, it goes a lot quicker rather than that flathead screwdriver. Thanks again for watching. Take care.